start recording. So let's understand what a function is actually. Can you tell me any idea what function is? What is a function?
Maybe function would be where it's where you put an input and that will get processed, which basically the function would be a intermediary between the input and for the output. So that you put one value for it and you get this output.
Okay, so function is, suppose if I say I put x inside, suppose I say in place of x, let me say there is an input and let that input be 3. All right. So inside it goes into a machine, and in my machine there is a multiplication by 3 and followed by whatever is the answer, you have to plus 2. So what will be the answer for this?
Thirdly, so 3 into 3, 9, and then 9 plus 2, it will be 11.
The output will be how much?
11.
11. So this is the input. This is something which is happening inside the function, and this is the output, right?
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that? Okay. So this is like a, we usually, whenever we are teaching functions, we call this as a machine. So something is happening inside the machine. There is some algo inside the machine or some coding. So in the machine, there is something happening. So the input changes into a output because there is some algorithm inside the machine. Okay, some algo inside the machine. So what you get outside is the fx, all right? Yeah. Now, this fx is also termed as y many a times, right? Yeah. So now going forward, whenever you're making a graph, so if this is x, this can also be called as fx going forward now, which we used to say earlier as y, right? Now this can also be called as fx, which means this one is an independent variable and this fx is a dependent variable. Whatever you input here, आपने जो भी यहाँ पर input दिया, based on that you get an output. Okay, that is why fx is always a dependent variable. Is that clear? That's why we call it as function of x. Yeah, it's not alone something else. It is a function of x depending upon whatever function is happening inside the machine. Yeah. Clear? Right? So this is what a function is. Now, I will introduce the words like domain. Domain is always associated with what?
It's mostly domain is associated with x, I believe.
All values of x. And what is the word range now?
This is, I guess, all values of y.
All values of y. Okay? Keep that in mind. Okay? Now, let's take another example. Suppose this part is understood what a function would actually be now going forward. Right. Okay. Now, let's move to the next part. So, I'm going from the basics. So, suppose I have a function f of x, which is 2x squared plus 3x minus 1. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what is fx? As I told you, this is nothing but the output, correct?
Yeah.
Depending on what input you're feeding into the machine.
Yeah.
Right. So what if I feed in 0? So this is the representation which is going to happen. Every time you feed in a particular value, you write f of 0. Like here, I'm going to input x equals to, when x is equals to 0, you feed in f of 0. So what will happen inside the machine? This.
Yeah, this will happen. So your answer will be -1 then, because
everything becomes So when the input was 0, I will write when x is 0, what happens? What did I get as fx?
fx is equal to -1.
So f of 0 is equal to -1.
Okay, f of 0, sorry.
Right, f of 0 or fx is equal to -1 when x is 0. Now similarly, if x is equals to 1, then what will happen? F of 1, 2, 1 raised to power 2 plus 3 into 1 minus 1. What's the answer?
4.
The answer would be
4 because
right. X is equal to 1. So f of 1 is equal to 1, is equal to 4.
Yes.
Correct? So this is easy, very easy.
Yeah.
What if I put a variable inside this? Suppose I put x is equal to a plus b. What will happen then?
So
F of
f will be bracket a plus b
hmm,
is equal to 2 bracket a plus b the whole square plus 3 bracket a plus b minus 1.
and then accordingly you will put the identity and figure out the answer and give the answer for fx, f of
Yeah,
a plus b, right? You can
yeah,
put the identity. So you understood it doesn't matter whatever I'm inputting, accordingly I will get an output, correct?
yeah,
So that's not a problem. Understood this much?
yeah.
Right, okay. Next we will try to understand what is inverse of a function, okay? Inverse of a function. Now,
So
all of this is something which we have already done in grade.
9 and 10. So you can, so basically if you take the example of the machine we used like for input, machine output. So you see we got the output, right?
Hmm.
We already have the output, like we taken the example for 3 is input. So if we know the output 11 and we need to get the input 3, so what exactly do we do? So we will do is we will do instead of like for origin we did into 3 plus 2, right? So we will do is 11 minus 2 first, 11 minus 2, then that the answer given which will be divided by 3. So then
Right.
we will get 3.
Absolutely. So now, as you said, you already have the input, you're trying to go back to the, sorry, you already have the output, you're trying to go back to the input, right?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so what are the steps? I'll take a very simple equation. There are certain steps that we need to follow here, okay? So my question is, say f of x is equal to 3x plus 5. That's your question, okay? And we have to find the inverse of this. So there are certain steps that we have to follow here. What are the steps? Any idea? What is the step 1?
I think you could use for fx, you can use a different variable, like for example y or z.
Usually
So
take it as y, correct? So सबसे पहला take a different variable
so
and you
y
write
is equal to 3x plus 5. So now you
3x.
have to make x the subject here. So you'll do is the so y minus 5 divided by 3 is equal
5
to
minus 5
x.
divided by 3 is equal to x. So that becomes your...
Then we replace that for then we replace that with f minus 1 bracket x is
So
equal
what we do is we are going to swap the values again now. Do we
yeah
swap? This becomes x minus 5 upon 3 and
yeah
this one becomes...
it
This would
becomes
become...
f minus 1 x,
This
right?
will become y.
Okay, y.
First you make... So you swapping x and y is the next step, okay? That's step 4 or step 3. And in the final step, this y is nothing but
F of x, f minus 1x.
f inverse of x. All right.
Yes.
And we are supposed to show all the 4 steps very clearly because otherwise we won't be marked properly, right? We'll lose marks. So the 4 steps of usually children, they know all of this very well. What they forget is this step, and then this step. That's where most of the students, they lose their marks. They find this step to be very simple, so they forget it. है ना? ऐसा लगता है कि वो important नहीं है, but you have to get full marks in this. Very easy question, but to get full marks, you need to show these steps, 4 steps. Clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Chalo. So this is understood. I'll give you one question now. थोड़ा सा tricky देती हूँ. So let's do one question on this. So tricky नहीं है. I'm sure you will be able to do it. You are given g of x is equal to x raised to power 5 minus 8, and you are supposed to find g inverse of x.
Done. So your answer would for G inverse of X, it will be 5. I don't know how would you say this, but 5, the root thing, then X plus 8.
Okay, so that is said as fifth root of x
Fifth
plus 8.
root. Fifth root of X plus 8. So it was first take Gx as is equal to Y. Then I substituted that in the Gx, substituted the Y value in Gx. So Y is equal to X. I forgot.
Fifth root of
Yeah.
Ah.
8. Then I transported 8 to the left hand side. Y plus 8 is equal to X raised to the power 5. And then I transferred the 5 to the left hand side, making it a fifth root. Now fifth root, Y plus 8 is equal to X. Then I swapped the values, which is fifth root, X plus 8 is equal to Y. Then fifth root, X plus 8 is equal to G inverse X.
Perfect. So I think there is no problem in understanding the basics of functions, right?
Yeah.
We have just started. Yes, so it was kind of a revision of last year. Then we will do the tests that we do here. Okay. Any idea on what are the tests?
Tests, you could, tests as in for the function, right? Or
Yes.
whether
What are the various tests for functions? Okay, let me draw a few things first. Okay. So I have this. Just a minute. I'm going to draw a few things here, few graphs. Let's take the first one like this. Second one is like this. And the third one is like this. Okay, 3 graphs. Okay. Right?
Yeah.
What if I'm trying to, try to understand what happens if I give an input to this graph. Okay. So suppose my input is like this. This is my input. So what will happen if I to the output? Okay. This is the input. What will happen to the output? Okay. That's what I need to understand. Okay. Did you get my point?
Yeah.
So here, can you tell me this value of x, suppose this is 2 and this is 3. Okay.
Yeah.
So am I getting two different values of y for x?
Yeah.
And so let me call this as x1. This one is x2. So for x1, I'm getting y1. And for x2, I'm getting y2, right? So whenever I'm trying to do this, whenever I'm trying to, for separate values of x, I'm getting a separate value of y. I will first of all call this as a function. It is a function.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is what kind of function? For one x, I get one y. For
It's
another x, so it is a function which is of 1 to 1 kind of. Okay. 1 to 1. All right. इसके बाद आते हैं another kind of question. Here I have, now is why I have drawn these 3 figures only. If you see, if I go here, there is a value and there is another value. So this is, I'll call this as x1. I call this as y1. Okay.
Yeah.
Here I'm going for x2, but if you actually see, I'm getting the same value of y1 here. So this is
many function, right?
It's also a function, still qualified to be a function, but it is not one-to-one. It is called many-to-one function.
Yeah.
It's still a function, but many-to-one. Now, why is it qualified as a function? क्योंकि ये जो हमने लिखा ये one और ये one, this means ये वाला जो है, this is always the x and this is always the y. This is always the x, this is always the y. I can have multiple x. X can be one or many, but
Y cannot.
Y can be only one. can't be many. ठीक है, y ज्यादा नहीं हो सकते, आउटपुट ज्यादा नहीं होना चाहिए, आउटपुट कैन नॉट बी मेनी. जो अब आप यहां देखोगे क्या हो रहा है इन दिस थर्ड केस, व्हाट आर यू सीइंग हियर? You give one value of x1, right? You get another value of y. That's fine. यहाँ तक तो ठीक था. But for the same value of x1, I'm getting one more value of y1, y2. है ना? 2 values हो गए y के. Now this is not allowed. तो अब हम इसको क्या बोलेंगे? क्योंकि ये तो हमारा but वाला point आ गया यहाँ पे कि it cannot be more than one. It has to be only one output. So it's not a function.
Okay.
Got it? It's not a function. और ये कॉन्सेप्ट बहुत बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. क्यों? क्योंकि यहां पर क्या हुआ, इट्स वन टू मेनी हो गया. सो इट इज अ रिलेशन. ये एक रिलेशन हो सकता है, ये तीनों रिलेशंस है, बट इट्स नॉट अ फंक्शन. दिस इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. क्लियर?
Yeah.
बिकॉज यहां पर ये क्या हुआ, इनपुट इज वन, आउटपुट इज मेनी.
Yeah.
हाँ, आउटपुट इज मेनी, जो कि गड़बड़ हो गई. तो देन इट्स नॉट अ फंक्शन. इट इज अ रिलेशन बट इट इज नॉट अ फंक्शन. इज दैट पॉइंट क्लियर?
Yeah.
ठीक है. अब इसको टेस्ट करने का, बिकॉज वी आई हैव रिटन द हेडिंग एज टेस्ट, सो व्हाट इज द टेस्ट करने का तरीका फॉर दिस? ओके, सो वी डू अ वर्टिकल लाइन टेस्ट. ओके, in my vertical line test, see what I am going to do. Okay, you see that I am making a line. Okay, when I make a line like this, what I just did was making a, this is a vertical line, correct?
Yeah.
If I do a vertical line and I get 1 to 1 or many to 1, that's okay. But if so it's like I'm moving my line, my line ahead. So every time I'm moving my line, I'm getting a different value for y. So then it's qualifying as a function. In this, every time I'm moving my this, I'm getting one value of y, which is also fine. Every time I'm moving it like this, I'm getting one value. But यहाँ पर ये देखो, यहाँ पर ये क्या कर रहा है? It is cutting it at two places, which means I'm getting two values of y.
So it should be cutting at only basically one place.
One place, right? Here it is cutting at only one place. It's cutting at one place only. But यहाँ पर it's cutting the curve at two places, which means I'm going to get two values of y. So I know that this is called as a vertical line test. I just did a vertical line test. This is a vertical line test. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now there is something called as a horizontal line test. Okay. ठीक है, पहले एक दो पॉइंट्स लिख लेते हैं वर्टिकल लाइन टेस्ट के बारे में. We'll just write a few points here. When you do a vertical line test, हमको उससे क्या पता चलता है?
We get different values of y if we get y. So graphically, if the line is cutting at one at each basic x is cutting at one place ID. So you would get you can either get one, you can get one value or two values of okay, I think I'll just write it down.
हाँ, so what you're saying is absolutely correct. It means अगर आप एक जगह कट हो रहा है, then it is a function. If there are more than one cuts, it is not a function. So vertical line test checks if a function is function or not. ठीक है? Check if a graph is a function or not. One cut means function. Two cuts, more than one, yani two cuts or more, not a function. ठीक है? That's a point for vertical line test. ठीक है?
Yeah.
Then we come to horizontal line test. Okay, for that also I'm going to draw something first. ठीक है?
Yeah.
Okay, when you're doing a horizontal line test, ये जो हम सीख रहे हैं ना, ये है बहुत आसान, but ये बहुत important use है इसका, which we will see later.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm taking these two here. ठीक है? अब यहाँ तो ये function third वाला I'm not drawing, because that's not a function only. So I don't need to do a horizontal line test.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I have drawn only 2 of them here. Okay. Now, what are we going to do? We are going to do a horizontal line. And you know how a horizontal line looks like?
Yeah.
Horizontal line will be like this, right? It will be like this. Now, if you do a horizontal line test, for this also, you see it is cutting only once. It's cutting only once. Here also it's cutting only once, right? But when you do a horizontal line test here, it is cutting how many times?
It's cutting about 2 times.
2 times, right? For this particular graph. So
Yeah.
what is this going to tell us is, I'm now write the point. It will tell you, very important, going forward, you will use it. It will tell you whether the inverse of this function is going to exist or not. Vertical line से आपने ये बताया कि ये function होगा कि नहीं होगा, but horizontal line से आपने ये बताया whether inverse will exist or not. So सिर्फ graph देख के अगर मुझे बताना है कि inverse exist करता है कि नहीं करता है, for that I will do a horizontal line test and I will be able to answer this much at least. ठीक है? So please write down a horizontal line test.
Yeah.
Horizontal line test tells if inverse of a function would exist or not. And you understand why we have not taken the third graph. Third graph was not a function only, तो उसका inverse का तो बात ही खत्म हो गई, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is understood. Now, if you see, here, if you see, if I'm doing I'll just quickly do a vertical line test on this. Sorry, horizontal line test on this. So as I said, if I'm it's cutting only once, right? तो क्या बोलूं मैं इसका inverse exist करेगा? Exists. Okay. And this is what kind of function? Because it is a 1-to-1 function.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind, that if it is a 1-to-1 function, inverse is going to exist.
Yeah.
Okay. Keep that in mind now. Going forward, we are going to use it often. Now, in this case, if I do a horizontal line test, it's cutting how many times?
It's cutting about 2 times.
2 times. So what kind of function is it?
It's a many-to-one function.
It's a many-to-one function. What is many here?
So many is where there are, if there's a horizontal line cutting at 2 times, where basically a y value is having about 2 inputs of x values.
Okay, so this is a many-to-one function. Many matlab many inputs, outputs are 1. Okay.
Yeah.
For such questions, like this is a quadratic graph, so its inverse function does not exist.
Yeah.
Does not exist. So going forward, if there is a many-to-one function, inverse function won't exist.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind now. Okay. That inverse exists only for 1-to-1 function. For many-to-one function, it won't exist. And if it is 1-to-many, that to itself is not a function only, तो inverse होने का कोई सवाल ही नहीं है. Clear?
Yeah.
So tests are also clear to us?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I come to another point, which is the composite functions. Okay. You know what is a composite function?
Yeah, I guess it's more like merging basically 2 functions together.
Function inside a function.
Yeah.
That's a composite function. Function inside a function. That's a composite function. Okay? All right. So isko karne ka tarika. So let's take one example. Suppose I have fx, let's say that's equal to 2x plus 5. Okay?
Yeah.
And I have another gx, which is x square plus 3. Okay? Now, I can have a question which says, find out FG, find out FGX. That's one. I can have a question which says, find out G of Fx. I can have a question which says G of Gx, or it says F of Fx. And the fifth variation could be inverse of all of these. Okay? That is what you can expect from this particular question. Okay? Did you get my point? क्या क्या questions पूछे जा सकते हैं आपसे? Okay. So अभी मैं सारे नहीं लेकर के I will take one of these. Let's find out the first. Let's find out what is f of gx. Can you find out how to get the answer for this?
So you could just since it's F, so for the first one, since it's F is the first, so you can just do is do F bracket GX then bracket close. Do that because it becomes easier, because normally when you see the question, normally it becomes confusing. Yeah. Do that.
Yeah.
Then you do equal to 2. Then the x value will be replaced by gx's function, so bracket
Superb.
X square plus 3 bracket close plus 5.
Let me do the first step as when I replaced here, so I'll replace here also. And then we can do that in the next step, okay? Yeah. So 2 and then x square plus 3 and plus 5. So what is the answer?
So 2x square plus 6 plus 5. So it should be 2x square plus 11.
Superb. So we got the answer for this one. Very good. So in the same way, we can find out what is g of fx.
Yeah, we can do that.
So that is easy. We can skip that for now.
Yeah. Actually, this is like the main issue sometimes, because normally when you get f of, because this is normally where I saw in 9 and 10, this is where you used to struggle actually earlier, because it used to get confusing where exactly does f is exactly, is f supposed to come first or g is supposed to come first. So normally what I would do is just do is f, then bracket gx, then it becomes easier.
Yeah, that's the perfect way. Who taught you that way?
No, I think just like normally when we're doing functions, our teacher mostly said just do it like that, because it gets confusing because where the variable exactly going.
Correct. No, that's the best way of doing it. In place of x, just put that value of gx or jo bhi whatever the new function you've been asked to put. Do that and it becomes the work becomes easier. So I think this part is absolutely clear. Okay. So we know how to find the composite function. So I will not spend a lot of time on this. You are already aware. So you can figure out the rest on your own. Yeah. Now I will go on to the onto understanding what is an inverse function. Okay. So the rest of the questions you can do, right? I'll just give that to you as, just as a practice. G of gx. Then the fourth one could be f of fx. And the fifth one is going to be, we're done. Well, these you can find out. And the fifth one I will tell you when we are done with the next topic. That is the inverse. Okay. Yeah. To understand the inverse now. Okay. All right. So I'll take the most basic thing first. Just give me 1 second. Sure. Can you see my screen? You're able to see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. Now we are going to learn how to sketch a graph. Okay. So let's take the same question which we were doing earlier. The question was f of x is equal to 2x plus 4. Okay. And you are supposed to, now in this one, we are supposed to find first how to sketch the inverse of the same function. So what are we supposed to find? F inverse of x, we have to find and we have to put it on the same graph. Okay.
Yeah.
So say, how will I do that? How should I do that? So what will I need here is I will need my graph first. Okay. So let's say we will make this graph. How do I make a normal graph here? Or
So I think just make a straight line down and then horizontal. Then label those label the horizontal line as x and your vertical line as fx.
Okay, so I will try to do one thing. Let me find out what are the values after I plot these. एक बार f of 0 निकाल लेते हैं. When x is 0, so what will be the value? 4.
Yeah.
And so that means one point is going to be 0, 4. 4, 0. So this point will be 4, 0.
Yeah.
Right. And another point will be, let's take fx as, that is y as 0. So what will be the other value if y is 0?
If y is equal to 0, then it's
I've written this ulta. It's 0, 4.
so
What is the
meaning this will be the
0 is equal to 2x plus 4, right? So
yeah.
I have to figure out when y is 0. This is when y is 0. So I have to find out when y is 0, what is the value for x? 4 comes this side, right?
Yeah.
Becomes minus 4 divided by 2.
So it'll be minus 2.
It will be minus 2. So what the two values that I need, I've got. Okay. So I'll just put those here. So it's, what did I get? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's one is 0, 4.
Yeah.
And the other one that I got was minus 2, 0. So minus 1 and minus 2 here. So minus 2, 0.
Ma'am, do you want me to remove my graph paper for this in this case?
No, not needed as of now.
Just, I just sketch it.
You have a graph sheet right away?
Not on hand, I have to find it, but it's fine. I think I'll sketch it then.
So you can sketch it later. As of now, just try to understand the concept here. That's okay. Okay. So now what I am doing is I'm just going to make a line between for these two, which is not a proper line.
Yeah,
so
I think
I will try to make it like,
just connect it first and then link the line.
Yeah. So my line kuch aisa, right? Something like this. I got my line. Okay. I can extend it. This line we got?
Yeah. Yeah, we got that.
थोड़ा सा गड़बड़ हो गया, but ठीक है. You understood now what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
I think now we got it. Got a kind of perfect line. So this is done. Now this is which line?
So this is the line for fx.
Fx is equal to what?
This fx is equal to 2x plus 4.
2x plus 4. Okay. अब हमको क्या करना है? We have to figure out the inverse of this. Okay. So now the important point is, पहले बताओ मुझे ये वाला point आपके पास क्या था? What was this point? ये क्या point था?
This is a point where if x is 0.
0, 4. This is 0, 4.
Yeah.
So इसका opposite कर दो. You make x as y and y as x. So what point do you get? You get 4, 0.
Yeah.
Figure out where is 4, 0. I will do it in a different color now. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is my 4, 0.
So inverse, right?
that because I'm now without even finding out the inverse, I have to only do it on the graph. So for that, what I've just done, जो भी axis पे मेरे points आए थे, I'm just reversing them. So पहले it was 0,4, so I'm reversing it to 4,0, correct?
Yeah. And then for the where y is equal to 0, you can just inverse them. So it'll be 0, 0, 2,
0,
minus 2.
-2, correct. अब हमको क्या करना है? We have to connect these two, okay? Before connecting these two, हमको एक line और चाहिए, which is going to be right in the middle. ठीक है? Right in the middle. So that line you will have to make right in the middle. So which will.
So wait, like which in the middle, like the middle of the equation of the inverse?
Which will be the, I'll show you.
So should be the midpoint?
Like
okay.
this.
Oh, no. Oh, this.
The origin. So this is one line which we need.
Yeah, okay.
ठीक है?
Yeah.
तो मेरा गड़बड़ हो गया line. Rather make it.
So this line has to go through the origin, right? Basically.
Absolutely through the origin. ठीक है? No, it's still not fine.
Okay. I think can you just see it on camera right now? Something like something like this.
Absolutely, very good. Yes, absolutely. So आपने क्या बना लिया? You have just made a line through the, which is going through the origin, like this. Correct? बस अभी इतना हो गया. अब we are going to make our line in for the inverse function. Now where should it go from? It should also go from
4, 0 and okay.
And it should go through these 2 points that we have. Clear? Clear?
Okay, so basically, wait. So it has to come from a point of origin to the, and that.
Correct. So what we have just done is, this is the F inverse X ka graph. It is, the middle one is Y equals to X. Why am I doing this? Because we are reflecting the line fx is equal to 2x plus 4 over y equals to x. And that is what an inverse function means.
Okay. I think probably I might have made a mistake in my, I think the fx is equal to 2x plus 4. I think because again I'm sketching it, so I don't have exact chord.
We will need the exact points for this.
Yeah, I will have to.
Okay. So you can do it on the graph sheet later, but you understood the concept, right?
Yeah.
Right. So what have we just done? We are sketching an inverse function on a graph. This is inverse function.
Yeah. So necessarily it has to be basically where if the fx has these coordinates where x is equal to 0 and y is equal to 0. So basically it'll be the inverse of that for the inverse graph, right?
Right. So हमने सबसे पहले, so I'll just revise through the steps. What all did we do? First of all, we wrote our function. हमने function लिखा. हमको क्या निकालना था? That we are clear, right? For that, first what did we do? We wrote x equals to 0. So for x equals to 0, we found out what is x equals to 0. We found this value. We found when you put it in the graph, we get this value, right? So that becomes one plotting point for you, right? For the main line. Then what do? You put y equals to 0. Y यानी कि fx equals to 0. Then you get your second plotting point, which is this. And that you put it on the graph, okay? After getting that, what is the next thing? So this was our step 1. Step 2 में हमने क्या किया?
Step 2 we did was we made a line for y is equal to x. And then we did for f. So we basically swapped where x is equal to 0 and y is equal to 0 coordinates, and
this becomes 4, 0.
Yeah.
And the other one is minus 2, 0. तो वो क्या बन गया हमारा? 0, minus 2, and then connect. अब हमारे पास 3 points हो गए connect करने के लिए. Step 4 is connect.
Yeah.
connect.
Okay then.
Clear, right? So you can now sketch a graph. One second, I'll just write step 1 here so that. So now you can sketch a graph without actually plotting F inverse. हमने कहीं पे F inverse निकाला? Did we figure out what is F inverse? हमने कहीं नहीं निकाला, right? We have not even drawn. Algebraically, we have not done it, but we have done it graphically. So it's clear? You now understand how to make a F inverse graph on a without even actually finding out what is F inverse, right?
Yeah.
Another extremely important question which comes for F inverse again, okay? उसके लिए I need to do little bit of quadratics first, and then we will, because जो general questions आते हैं, basis that we are learning all of this. So our next type of question is, it says, you have to find out, you're given an fx, which is a quadratic function, okay? This is your question. So how I'll show you how the flow of the questions are usually. क्या होता है? सबसे पहला question इसमें आपसे आएगा. Now see, now the same question is going to be, will have quadratic also and functions also. Now see how the question will be asked. You are supposed to express this fx in the form of ax minus, this is one of the past paper questions, okay? X minus b whole square plus c. That's your first question. Express fx as
X minus t the whole square.
fx as this. So do you understand what form is this? What form is it?
This is mostly the completing the square.
Completing the square method. So completing the square method से फटाफट मुझे ये बताओ, how will you do this? What is the answer?
Currently, so you can just do it for fx equals arrow then. So since, so you have, so to make it x squared minus the vx.
You can straight away give me the answer. I know you know the method, so you can just straight away give me the answer.
Yeah. Will it be 2 bracket x minus 2 the whole square plus 6?
Yes, 2 bracket x minus 2 the whole square plus 6. Absolutely. ठीक है. Now sketch this graph.
I think we already have a vertex point already actually. So it'll be 2, 6. So if I just I think this might be that. So I won't be perfect.
Correct. That's okay. That's okay. Second part में अब हमको इसको sketch करने के लिए बोला जाएगा. Sketch f of x.
No, this is not a, and this will be the maximum pointer in this case. So
Just give me a rough, thing. Sketching.
Yeah. I'm just giving that. Just give me a moment. I'm just getting the y value to it. So yeah. Ma'am, I think I'm doing something wrong for the y coordinate, I think. And I'm putting y is equal to z. I've already done for x is equal to 0. So I'm getting it as 0. The coordinate is 0, 14. But for the y coordinate, I am getting xy or something else because I think I'm trying to square root a negative number here.
Okay. So you are not. It must be something like you're not getting a x value, perfect x value, right? Because the discriminant is coming out to be 0.
Yeah.
Sorry, less than 0, negative.
Yeah.
Is that so?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
Because
okay. All we need is just this much. The turning point, अभी मुझे बता दो sketching में turning point बता दो. And
yeah,
हाँ, what are the turning points?
just give me a moment. So yeah, just give me a moment. So yeah, I think I'm getting something like this actually. It's like going up, it's above the axis. Something like
Okay, and
not
this
really
this is 14 you said, right? This is
yeah.
14, right? Okay.
Yes, I'm
And
putting
it's a smiling face,
yeah.
smiling
And
graph.
it's above the x-axis, not touching the
And
x.
what are the coordinates of the turning point?
Turning
Is
point is 2, 6.
2,6, right? Where 2 is on the x-axis and 6 is here. So this much is what we need. Our
Okay.
next question is, okay, for this part, only this much is what we need. Next question is, state with a reason whether F inverse exists or not. F inverse X exists or not, and जो भी आपका आंसर आएगा, why. Now for this, Aditi, we have learned something today itself, and that was, what was it here?
The vertical line test or horizontal line test.
So for checking for inverse, कौन सा test था?
For checking for inverse will be the horizontal test.
It will be the horizontal test. And what did we learn here?
So if a line cuts at 2 points, if the line cuts at 2 points, it is a many to one function.
It's a many to one function so for this kind of many to one function, will an inverse exist?
Yeah.
Will it exist? Inverse will exist? Inverse function doesn't exist for a many to one function.
Okay.
Right? Remember now?
Yeah, because it's not a one to. If it was a
It's
one
not
to
a one to one function, it's a many to one function. And many to one function पे जब आप horizontal line test करते हो, what you see is it cuts at two places. If it is cutting at two places, we know it is not going to be there's no inverse going to exist for this. Okay, because you understood the concept now, right? So चलो इस पे देखते हैं. I'll show you the which test do we need to do for this?
this will be a
Horizontal line test. So let's do a horizontal line test here. Now it is cutting at two places. So what do I write now?
So as doing okay, so as we do the horizontal line test, the line is cutting at two points on the 2 points of the parabola. Hence deducing that it's a many to one function. Not
So,
hence.
right. So you can say your point is correct, but इसको answer कैसे करना है? You know the reason also that horizontal line test करने पे ये many to one आया, so we don't do it, right? So we will write no. F inverse X does not exist because it's a many to one function. No, F inverse X does not exist as it is a many to one function. Point clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I'm quickly going to revise through everything we have done today. So first is we talked about
What is
uh,
functions?
what are functions, how we can now in place of y we can use x fx,
Yeah.
and what is an independent variable and what is a dependent variable, because I'm telling you this because you'll be using this in physics. Okay.
Yeah.
Then how to find out fx when a
Yeah.
input value is given to you, finding out what are the steps required for finding out an inverse of a function, that much is clear.
Yeah.
Then horizontal and vertical line test. So we know that vertical line test will only tell us if a particular figure, a graph which is given to you, whether it is a one-to-one function, whether it is a function or not. और function होने के लिए what does it have to have? It should have either one-to-one or many-to-one. It cannot have many outputs. The in output can only be one. So vertical line test is only to find out whether something is a function. And why is third case not a function? This is not a function, right?
Um. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Why
So
is it
because the x values have basically the input values having many outputs.
correct? Very good. Now coming to, so just summarizing the vertical line test that checks if it's a function or not. If it is a one cut, it is a function. If it is two cuts or more, not a function. Clear?
Yeah.
Now horizontal line test. What we do in horizontal line test?
It's so in a horizontal line test, you check whether the inverse exists or not. If the if there's two cuts, the inverse does not exist. But if there's like one cut, the inverse exists.
Perfect, perfect. And from this, what can we conclude? If it is a one-to-one function, then only inverse will exist. If it's a many-to-one function, then will inverse exist or not?
It will not
It
exist.
many-to-one function के लिए inverse exist नहीं करेगा. Then we learned about composite functions. Composite, you were kind of thorough about it. So
Yeah.
composite function means function inside a function, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Next is very important, sketching a graph. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did we learn here?
So firstly, we did was when we are given a function to draw on a graph. We firstly do is we input the value of x is equal to 0 and y is equal to 0 to get the 2 points for it, and then we create a line across it. Then when we come to making inverse, we firstly do make another line which is the y is equal to x from the point of origin, and then for f inverse x, we for the x is equal to 0, if the x is equal to 0, it'll be the inverse for the y. So the y value get is the inverse of x for that inverse function. And then for y coordinate, the basically the x value is the inverse of the y value for that inverse function.
ठीक है. So you just inverse it. Say
Yeah.
just either you reverse them or you inverse them. ठीक है?
Yeah.
Clear? So now our next class tomorrow is going to be here one more thing. Sorry. With quadratic, what did we just do in the third part? First and second part, so we learned in the last class only. Third part, what have we done in this question here?
Basically, explained on so the question asks us whether f inverse of x exists or not, and if y. So we gave our statement no, and we answered why does not exist.
So what did we answer it? Have we talked anything about horizontal line test here? We've
No.
not said anything about it. Okay. But we know in the background that we do a horizontal line test to check, but we will not mention that. The reason would be that because it is a many-to-one function, or you can also say it's not a one-to-one function. That's why the inverse doesn't exist. I hope we are clear on to whatever we've learned today.
Yeah.
Right now, our next class is going to be about domain and range, which is going to be a very, very important topic. You know that most children, they get confused in domain and range, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll start domain range next class.